Hello and welcome back to the GameShow Global Esports Cup for game number 2, DK versus Newbee. In the GameShow Global Esports Cup Chinese playoffs, a best of 5 to decide who is going to join IG in Vilnius. And right now, Newbee are looking strong to be just that team. In game number 1, how? With a ridiculously farmed Juggernaut laid waste to DK. That was an absurd amount of space they got and was really untouched. Ended the game something like 17-0 with a trillion gold per minute. I don't even know how he got so much money. Regardless, moving on to game number 2. This is really where DK need to show their colors. And let's see if they can come back and take this victory, similar to what we saw for the Dream do in game number 2 against IG earlier today. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm going to be Grandis V, and again, I'll also be joined by Corrupt Drop Bear on the stats. All those interesting tidbits about how farmed the Juggernaut were in game number 1 are from him. And, well, we're not going to see any tidbits about Juggernaut, at the very least, as he's going to be banned out by DK. That is some mad respect, and I think it's definitely deserved. For now, as the draft is starting off a little bit, so I want to go down the line, just introduce all of the players by name, because I'm probably not going to do that again throughout this game, since their in-game names are not showing up properly, at least according to their official tags. So down the line for Newbee, Hao, Mu, and then Zhao Lei, that'll be Chizbug, and then Banana. And for the DK's side, that'll be QD, YCYK, XXS, Babaka, and Wrong down the line for them. Yeah, don't expect that to stick around in the play-by-play. It's really easy to forget in the thick of things, but in general, credit where credit's due. These players definitely deserve their spot in this best-of-5 playoff game. And for DK, they're going to open things up with the Winter Wyvern, a very strong opening. And into that, Newbee are going to pick up the Tusk. A really scary hero. We saw how effectively they were able to use it in game number 1. The ice shards were on point. There were so many times where they're just sucking, seemingly miraculously, the enemy heroes, so they're able to be brought down. And even though I'd say Winter Wyvern fares very well against the Tusk, Cold Embrace is usually pretty good for saving allies to get initiated on by that hero. And Winter's Curse very good at turning around if Tusk decides to snowball in extra allies. This Tusk Shadow Fiend opener for Newbee is terrifying. Tusk is pretty good against the Shadow Fiend for isolating him inside the mid lane, but also very good for setting up for multiple raise combos. And we saw how much damage that can pump out and how much that really can do for you. Even though it was a lot of DPS for DK in game number 1, it felt like it just was never enough to deal with the Juggernaut. But right now, it's really difficult to call this a draft advantage for either side. Let's see what the second pick is going to be for DK. Can they pass up the Darkseer Winter Wyvern combo? I'm not so sure. The Darkseer didn't work out for them in the first time around. Still, I think it is a worthwhile pickup here with just how well it synergizes with the Winter Wyvern. But instead, they're going to go for a little bit more of an aggressive track, the Spirit Breaker. Spirit Breaker in this game is potentially going to be able to roam on the Shadow Fiend if the mid laner Ganking 4 is strong enough to back up after, or follow up after the charge, I should say. Oh my goodness. Things are starting to get a little bit sloppy here. It's very, very early or late. I'm not sure what you call it, where I'm living. But it shouldn't affect this game too much, if any at all. We'll be moving on. Yeah, the Spirit Breaker is going to want something after that charge. Maybe something like a Lina could be good for DK here as an aggressive selection. But as far as their bans are concerned, they'll take away the Dazzle. No big surprises there. Shadow Fiend really likes to have those defensive supports behind him because of how much damage he can deal on the front lines. And the longer you're able to keep Shadow Fiend in the middle of the fray, the more raises you're throwing out, the more right clicks. And they really start to add up, and very quickly too. The aggressive potential of a Dazzle Tusk also not to be underestimated. So I think that comes as no surprise. Another ban DK might consider here, Slaughter. Not something that is as popular in China as it is in the other regions, but still an incredibly potent hero in combination with the Tusk and Shadow Fiend both, either as a safe lane farmer or as an offlaner. The minus armor synergy you get is pretty ridiculous and might be scary enough for DK to consider the ban. Temporis has some ban from Newbee is pretty par for the course, just securing their Shadow Fiend. A little bit of extra safe space in the mid lane, and making sure that his lane matchup isn't innately favored for the opponent. Thinking about this next ban, DK are going to put a lot of respect on the Game 1 draft coming out from Newbee, and wasting no time, ban the Queen of Pain, pick up the Lina. Newbee are ready, probably a support Lina this time around, has a lot of aggressive potential with the Tusk. Lina's one of those heroes that always is able to offer something. If you're ahead and you're getting a lot of farm, get that Aghanim Scepter, get that Eul's Scepter up and running. Eul's this game has special mention, is a great way to stop Spirit Breaker's charge and a way to initiate for Newbee. But also just that amount of magic damage, even if from a support role, is usually enough to kill off heroes that are cold embraced, and really does mitigate the impacts of the Winter Wyvern as a defensive utility support. It still has that super strong BKB piercing ultimate to lock down maybe the Shadow Fiend or maybe whatever. How's heroes going to be this game for Newbee? But yeah, we'll wait and see. Now for DK, to follow up this Winter Wyvern Spirit Breaker, this is a very open-ended first two picks by them. Wonder what it's gonna be. Yeah, Shadow Fiend's matchups that are available inside the pool don't seem very bad for the Shadow Fiend. Even if the laning stage itself isn't going to be optimal, the Shadow Fiend should be able to get a lot of farm either through getting involved with kills, with the aggressive roaming potential of either the Tusk or the Tusk-Lina duo, and through stacks. So, I think DK, yeah, picking this Ancient Person is just fine. This potentially sets up for an Alchemist next. But Newbee feel very well equipped to deal with an Alchemist. With the raw amount of damage that they're bringing to the table, I think Ancient Apparition for Ancient Apparition's sake is just fine. And now Night Stalker for Newbee. Yeah, Alchemist is feeling very, very weak here. Or at the very least, very risky for DK. If he's able to get that farm, a terrifying force. But if he doesn't get that farm, is just going to be a money pinata for Newbee. He's innately going to have a high amount of net worth, and every time you kill him off, you're going to be getting so much. And denying so much away from the Alchemist himself, he needs to stay ahead in order to really be relevant. And I think DK might be better suited just to keep the Ancient Apparition, the Spirit Breaker, as a little bit of global ability thrown in there, and pick up something else for their mid lane entirely. And it's going to be the Ember Spirit. Alrighty. Ember Spirit by no means is going to have an easy game. Night Stalker is silenced, Lina is stunned, the Tusk kit as well, the setup on the Ember is going to make it difficult for him to contribute as well as he'd like to, but I still think this is the right idea for the side of DK. He's going to be able to fight early, even without items, just getting those levels up is fairly survivable against Newbee's damage output at the early stages of the game, as long as his Flame Guard remains intact. Although, it's not going to be remaining intact for very long. Just one raise or two, a Dragon Slave on top of that. Ember Spirit's going to be melted through after that falls. And if a Eul's Scepter comes out early for this Lina, purging off the Flame Guard is something that you also need to keep in mind. But for Newbee, going to go ahead and ban out the Spectre. That is a terrifying hero to give away to Newbee. And I can understand the ban, but maybe they go for something more aggressive altogether. You know what? I really wouldn't be opposed to a Death Prophet here. Or something super aggressive, but it's going to be a Disruptor. So instead, safe lane farming Lina mid Shadow Fiend, or vice versa. This is going to give that Lina that fast Eul's Scepter I was talking about, which isn't necessarily something you can rely upon, but this game it probably is. Taking away Ember Spirit's early fighting potential is huge, and that Eul's, as I kind of already mentioned, is really good against the Spirit Breaker also. And I like the aggressive flavor coming out from Newbee's draft. They're looking to close this one out very quickly. If DK are able to delay this out till later, the Ember Spirit's potential scaling is very strong. But is it even stronger than what Newbee are bringing to the table? Shadow Fiend and Lina both, despite not being the greatest individually scaling heroes, combined together can give anything a run for their money with the raw amount of damage output that you're going to be dishing. Especially if you have like an Aghanim's Refresher late game on this Lina. Super late game I'm talking, but for DK now, not a lot of time to consider this last pick. Is it going to be mid? Is it going to be safe lane? I don't think the matchup, no matter where you put him, is going to be great, and it's a Lifestealer for them. Very interesting. Now, Lifestealer. It definitely has his merits this game. Being able to rage out of the glimpse, and a lot of the damage coming out from Newbee is very magical focused early. Ooh, a little bit of lag there to Chinese servers. Hopefully that's all resolved. But yeah, I'm really afraid that this Lifestealer is just going to get kited around, that the Lina's Aghanim Scepter is going to make it almost impossible for him to contribute. It feels like DK have the ability to make this Life Stealer work. It's going to be very hard, though. A lot of high armor heroes, especially the Night Stalker, and once the mechanism comes up from the Shadow Fiend, he also will have quite a lot of armor pickup there. This is going to be difficult. Not going to be the easiest situation at all for this Life Stealer. I like that DK go for it. It's one of those picks that could, in theory, work out. And maybe it's just going to be amazing. They have a lot of vessels to get into the middle of the fight with. The Spirit Breaker and the Ember Spirit both incredibly mobile. I'm having massive connectivity issues with Chinese servers right now. Ooh. Hopefully. Oh no. Well, I'll see you back in a little bit. Let's try a reconnect. Sometimes perfect world servers really aren't all that perfect. Well, for now, if you're just joining us, this is DK versus Newbee, game number 2 in the GameShow Global Esports Cup. Whoever wins this series is going to join IG, and it looks like I have a better connection to the server. Alright, there we go. Much better. Heroes are moving. That's more than I could have said for the first load. Well, yeah, everybody's going to go out to their lanes. And now that I'm back in, I also have my stats guy, Corrupt Drop Bear, is going to be here from Standard Deviants. And I'll be offering some extra insight into the game. That should be fun. Well, the Bounty Rune bottom spot is going to be fairly heavily contested by the Dire squad. With Chilling Touch, it's always hard to count out their ability to take down these runes, and I don't think Newbee are really all that interested in fighting this. But with the Ice Shards, they're going to wall off the Life Stealer, forced to run towards the left. He has Rage, going to pop that now, but the damage has already been done. And they secure the Bounty Rune for the Shadow Fiend. Ember Spirit secures his Bounty Rune. No harm, no foul. Nobody's going to give up First Blood yet. Ember Spirit versus Shadow Fiend in a vacuum is pretty Shadow Fiend favored. But he has some help from his supports, and that extra Chilling Touch harass, and the extra Arctic Burn harass is really going to be very annoying. He just can't sustain any shots from the Wyvern here, or else he's going to take so much damage. And there you go. 1, 2, and 3. And just like that, Shadow Fiend is lower than half of his HP. That's the power of Ancient Apparition and Winter Wyvern combined. Just one of those is annoying enough. But Tusk somehow has managed to get a creep wave all the way back between his tier 1 and tier 2. This is going to give himself a lot of levels here on the Tusk. Somebody was dragging a creep wave somewhere. I'm not sure who that was. I think it was the Tusk. And we'll call that well played by him. It's going to secure level 2. Both Snowball and Shards are available. The bottom lane, not one that we've talked about it all, is a free farm lane for the Lina. In fact, she has not missed a single creep, I want to say. Looks like she's missed a deny or two. But really very impressive. I'm just waiting for this Lina to miss a CS. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. How is incredibly adept at farming, as we saw in the last game, and 8-8. Again, is missing 1 deny, but I think we can let that slip. The Spirit Breaker can't stick around the bottom lane. He's level 1, and XXS is just not in any situation to do anything against Selena solo, let alone when she has supports. Tusk, top lane, is going to take a lot of damage, but salving up should be just fine, at least for a little while longer, and if nothing else, it's having a better time than the Spirit Breaker. Not that that's very hard to do. Spirit Breaker is going to dive in mid, though, killing off the Shadow Fiend with the help of the Ember Spirit. And now that Spirit Breaker is having a much greater time, as he just got First Blood. Sorry for missing that. Just able to get in range for the magic damage coming out from the Ember Spirit, and Shadow Fiend being a little too cocky in lane. Or at least a little bit too far forward. The Ancient Apparition is going to die. The Tusk missing kills left, right, and center. The Life Stealer, is going to kill off the Night Stalker, but at the cost of his own life as he's tanking too many creeps. And the Winter Wyvern, I don't think you're able to kill off the Tusk here. We'll try. There's a Snowball available, though, and an Ice Shards. Tusk is going to trade some blows here. The Winter Wyvern is going to have to deal with the Snowball flying forward. This is mostly just a retreat Snowball, or is it? Tangoing up, this Tusk has some major confidence, and with good reason. Winter Wyvern at only level 2. Even if you have the Splinter Blast, there wasn't anything close by. The Shadow Fiend, despite dying for First Blood, is not going to be shut down entirely in this mid lane. And it's really hard to do that. And I'm still just blown away at how is farming. If I could, I'd just watch this guy farm. But I can't. I'd miss too many kills, and I've already missed way too many for comfort. TPing mid lane. Maybe a brawl, a brewing. They have a glimpse back on the Ember Spirit, charging on the Shadow Fiend, but the right-click damage will kill off the Ember here, and the Spirit Breaker would be going in way too deep. And now that First Blood really means next to nothing. Shadow Fiend's going to have his boots already done. Pick up the boots, prioritizing that over the bottle is a little bit interesting, but he'll get to the same place eventually. And maybe just as a purchase up before dying to make sure that he doesn't lose too much gold. Now Shadow Fiend's up to 22 souls. The Ember Spirit does not have enough damage to contest the right clicks of the Shadow Fiend. He even picks up a regeneration rune to boot. It feels like the game itself is really wanting the Shadow Fiend to do well. And he is. Roshan is going to get one punch into the Spirit Breaker. Spirit Breaker finally is going to get some experience in this lane, as has been decided by Hal that he wants to push down the bottom lane. And as well as Alina has been farming, the lifesteal is not too far behind. 22 and 7. That one death is going to slow things down a little bit, but not all that much. And now that the phase boots are up and running, it's really hard for anybody to deny him farm by themselves. But now the Night Stalker and the Tusk are hunting, and they're going to find a Winter Wyvern. It's Wyvern hunting season. They have the silence. 5 seconds. There is no hope for the Winter Wyvern to survive, but maybe they can get some kills. The Night Stalker and the Tusk have committed very deep behind enemy lines. Here comes the Life Stealer. 1 point open wounds. He could pop that at any time. Still going to hold on to that for a little while longer. The charge through is going to be delayed to get the bash. They don't even get the attack off. And nice TP coming out from the Tusk is going to keep him out to safety, and the Night Stalker was just able to run that one off. In the meantime, the Ember Spirit dies in the mid lane. My goodness, I'm just not able to keep up. Newbee are getting so many good trades across the map. Lina, this is a free farm, Lina. Absolutely free farm. 1,400 gold in the bank here. Do you even consider going hand to Midas? I don't think it's a bad choice by any means. But instead, it's just going to be the fastest Eul's Scepter we've ever seen. Maybe not. And in fact, I'm sure we'll check that once the Eul's Scepter comes back up. Well, it's going to be a darn quick one. Usually when you're in the mid, you have to back up for your bottle first. You want to pick up some more intermediate items before, maybe even a wand before you finish up the Eul's Scepter. But no, this is going to be almost a straight rush. And right now they're going for the dive into the Spirit Breaker. If he tries to charge out, well, he couldn't because he's crippling fear. Now the Light Strike connecting, no way home. He'll turn towards the mid lane, trying to find that glimmer of hope. The charge away is not going to be successful. And Lina is going to TP back to her tier 1. The supports are very deep, though. Here comes the TP in. The Ember Spirit and the Winter Wyvern want to get some blood on their hands. Banana trying to run away. The Disruptor will be able to evade the Ember Spirit for now, especially with some help from Hal's Light Strike array. 7-2. The rotation in from DK. Unfruitful. And that frees up a lot of space for your Shadow Fiend to move the Ember Spirit off of his lane. Already, the Ember Spirit was not going to be slowed down much. But now the Ember Spirit is getting all of the farm he could want. It looks like Newbee are just getting such a vast advantage from this early game. It's going to be really hard for them to come back from it. Ember Spirit is going to throw a Remnant down, but doesn't really have the mana for his full kit, and needs to wait for the Spirit Breaker first. Bottling up. He's getting ready. He wants to go in, but the Night Stalker's around the corner, and they really can't. Spirit Breaker is going to cancel that charge, and it feels like DK are already very far behind. More than 3,000 net worth advantage for Newbee. And about the same in experience, which at 7 minutes into the game is not something you can overlook. The Tusk has a snowball, can't use it in time. The charge comes from a nice angle over the trees. He didn't have the window for it. Bash is going to happen. And the Tusk is going to fall. I'd be a little bit mad if you don't get the bash there. He hit him more than enough, and I think that'll work out nice for DK. Tusk might be a little bit upset about that, but now Ember Spirit going to drop an aggressive Remnant. Oh, mid lane. Requiem going to be thrown. The Flame Guard is not lasting long enough. The Ember Spirit running back and forth under his tower. Winter Wyvern trying to run away. Does have the Cold Embrace. Double raise. Killing spree for the Shadow Fiend. And yeah, at this current rate, the Lina is getting so much farm. We'll have to see if she's able to break that record for this patch. It's a lot rarer to see Linas in the safe lane nowadays. Usually they're in the support role, but I still think it's very potent, especially as we've just seen how much damage they have to burn through that Flame Guard already. If you take that completely away, the Ember Spirit is paper. And he just doesn't have enough mobility to keep himself alive here, and is falling super far behind when it comes to net worth. His net worth is about the same of the Night Stalker on the enemy side. That's a combination of the Night Stalker doing really well, and the Ember Spirit doing really poorly. The Lifestealer is going to be working towards his Armlet, but Armlet or not, it's going to get silenced up. Can't rage through that. And really, the initiations nowadays are just so fast for Lifestealer to react to them. That's one of the big reasons why Lifestealer is so unpopular. You're going to get like a Blink Walrus Punch, or a Blink Static Storm, or just the Night Stalker from Fog to be able to catch up, but a Snowball under the tower. The Ancient Person is going to be stunned up, blown to oblivion. Oh, very easy kill for them. And now the Tusk and the Night Stalker, can they get out alive? They're going to slow down the Tusk very slow. They have a charge in from the bottom lane. They have a TP in from the Lifestealer, but earning up the Tusk is fairly survivable here, and has an Ice Shards as well to buy some extra space. The other weakness of the Lifestealer, not only because of the quick initiation and focus on burst, is the fact that he's just so kiteable. Very kiteable, in fact. He is going to have his Armlet components soon, but yeah, this Lena, there's her Eul's Scepter. Very close to the fastest Eul's Scepter this patch, and yeah, 15 seconds before the fastest time. At least for the full kit, having the Wands, no Talisman, and the Eul's Scepter all added on top of those boots. Still, this is a terrifying amount of farm. Her solo kill potential is through the roof. Any single hero, I want to say, dies to it if the Light Strike Array connects. The Ember Spirit and the Lifestealer might be able to rage and Remnant away, respectively. But smoked up, this is not something that DK are going to be expecting, at the very least. Or maybe they are. I mean, they know that Al's been farming well. Just how well, though? I'm not sure if they know that. Let's find out. Smoked up, the Tusk and the Lina for now are undetected. There isn't a clear angle on anybody but the Spirit Breaker, though. He's pushing out in the lane, and it looks like Lina's going to have to go for the full wraparound play. Radiant team have good vision behind this tower. They know that the Spirit Breaker is mostly alone, and with the Walrus Punch, Light Strike to follow. They didn't even really need the Eul's Scepter, but they're used it anyway. Killing him off, that was a beautifully timed Light Strike, in fact, and well, that's the way to show off the Eul's Scepter. Just get any kill. Doesn't matter who. Find a hero, make them dead. And they did. 11-3. Newbee are really running away with this. How do DK come back? It's so early in the game, and I think it relies on this Spirit Breaker getting momentum, but that's so hard when this Night Stalker has Tranquil is earned. Level 6, it's about to be a second nighttime, and Newbee are getting all of the momentum their way. This Winter Wyvern's so incredibly poor. Not her own fault, of course. The good news for them is that Ice Blast is up and running. So maybe with Ice Blast and Nether Strike, DK can find a couple of picks. But when they're grouped up, it's very hard. Eul's Scepter on the Spirit Breaker, not like this. Raises down. Cold Embrace not going to save your life against that massive amount of magic burst. They'll be able to cancel the Requiem channeling. The Shadow Fiend is dropping low. Laguna Blade will burn through the Flame Guard, but not much else. Infest inside the creep. The Lifestealer wants to jump out again. The Shadow Fiend is pretty low. The Creep is walking a little too far away, though. Silence up. The Ember Spirit is going to get a glimpse back. The Remnant is not going to save his life. What a beautiful glimpse. But he still has another Remnant on the other side. Ember Spirit will barely eke away with his life. And Newbee will continue on their warpath. You have an Armlet up for the Lifestealer. But Armlet is by no means... Ooh, Ice Blast? Yeah, not gonna kill anybody, I don't think. No, not even going to connect. But yeah, Armlet, it's just not reliable enough this game. The extra HP that it offers is going to be pretty nice, I suppose, but there's so much burst from Newbee. The toggling through is going to be a nightmare, especially with so many separate instances of damage. Everybody on Newbee's side is a potent damage healer, and the same can't be said for DK. Although, granted, you definitely don't want to be getting an Armlet on Newbee's side against the Ancient Person Ice Blast. That Ice Blast probably not going to save the AA's life here. Even taking a couple of tower shots, the Newbee's side are just running all over this game. DK have not been able to find a foothold at all. Infest is enough for 30 seconds. I think they need Infest ganks in stat. Spirit Breaker's going to thrive for the Nether Strike. Static Storm, Snowball forward. They'll kill him off, and now maybe chase for a little bit more. The Night Stalker's going to be running for the Lifestealer, but won't be able to find him yet. Bumps into the Lifestealer. Lifestealer is maybe going to be baited in a little bit further here. What's the plan here for Lifestealer? What's he going to be able to accomplish here? I think he might just die here. The Light Strike Array. They think about it. They force out the rage just the same. Yeah, saving the mana. Lena wasn't feeling the timing being 100% frame perfect. DP away by the Lifestealer, 14-3. But as I was saying, we need DK. If you're rooting for DK to come back into the series and to take game number 2, they need some pickoffs. Yeah, I forgot to mention the item progression on the Shadowfiend. He has his own Yules, which is ridiculous. The Yules Requiem, Yules Light Strike combo, they can set up for each other, set up for themselves, and nothing of that same caliber is coming out from DK. Although you have an item of similar worth in the Armlet for Lifesteal, I've already kind of touched on how that really doesn't do it for them. And the only way for DK to get back into this game is for the side of Newbee to get a little bit complacent, get caught out alone, and get killed by these Spirit Breaker Infest ganks. Right now, the Dire's Vision just isn't appropriate enough to be able to find those ganks. It's very defensive in nature. They have a lot of good wards on the map, and I think these defensive wards are fine, but it's not going to win them this game. It is going to buy them some more time, though, which maybe is enough. The late game scaling of an Ember Spirit, granted, he's not going to be able to tap into that now. He's getting outfarmed by the Night Stalker and almost getting outfarmed by the Disruptor at this point. Is at least something to look forward to. Rage TP, Lifestealer will be fine. Nobody canceled that yet. Shadowfiend's going to get charged up towards top. The Lifestealer is not in tow. And I think the Shadowfiend's just fine here. He's just going to TP away. They have no Winter's Curse. No way for the Wyvern to cancel that yet. Oh, this is going from bad to worse. I'm really not sure how they stop Newbee from taking everything and controlling the map. They're very efficiently farming their woods. They're not 100% stopping the Ember Spirit and Lifestealer from farming, but they're 90% stopping the Ember Spirit and Lifestealer from farming. The Lifestealer's items just don't mean as much, and we have a Midas on this Disruptor 15 minutes in the game. That is the lowest farm on Newbee. Yeah, it's not pretty. The lowest farm on DK's side, the Winter Wyvern doesn't even have upgraded boots. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Winter Wyvern has boots, I'll be honest. She'll be flying out of Clarity. And what looks like the completed drums for the Ember Spirit. Maybe that's going to be enough to keep him alive just long enough to be able to escape and consistently hold. DK do have a very good high ground defense with AA, with the Ember Spirit's Cleave, with the Winter Wyvern's Curse. But the Ember Spirit doesn't really become that threatening of a high ground defender until he has the Battle Fury, and probably one damage item on top of that. It's going to be a really rocky next 15-20 minutes for the side of DK. Oh, they have the Yule's Scepter onto the Spirit Breaker, Light Strike, and the Requiem. I'm not sure if they need to commit the Requiem, but you know what? Whatever works. They're going to lose their Night Stalker. The Ice Blast, oh, maybe they're not going to lose the Night Stalker. No, Ancient Person did get that chilling effect, so he's going to take down eventually. A 1-for-1 exchange. Ice Shards, though, they're going to look to make it more than just a 1-for-1. The Spirit Breaker is already down, and the Winter Wyvern soon to follow. If they get any amount of damage, Force Staff forward, Ice Shards, going to be a kill. Boop. The Penguin is going to kill him off. Now, the Lifestealer is sticking onto the Shadowfiend pretty well. Shadowfiend does get Kinetic Field up. Is that going to save his life? They need this SF kill. Bottling up. Chains will connect, and they bring down the Giant. 734 gold for the Lifestealer, but Laguna Blade and QD is going to get turned around upon so very quickly. Lena is also going to die. They're ending the sprees. DK are finally turning around to fight in their own favor. Ember Spirit is going to Remnant back in. Gets Chains onto 2. Remnanting forward. Doesn't really have enough to commit to this, especially when he gets silenced up, charge through, gonna stun everything, kill off Banana, and now looking for more. XXSS, whatever, remove an S, remove an X, or something there. Sorry. 17-7. And DK, although they don't get out there freely, have been able to pick a good fight. That is so much gold swinging in their favor. 35-40, the gold exchange in their advantage, and even a little bit lost by Newbee as a net change in that last fight. It's going to put a damper on things, but not by much. And as already pointed out, this Lena was so close to having the Aghanim Scepter and is still not too far away from it. Is it even going to be an Ags for the Lena, I wonder? Probably. Against the Lifestealer, it's such a useful utility tool, as well as against the Ember Spirit, both with abilities that allow them to evade that magic damage one way or another. But also could just be a Bloodstone. I don't know. It's up to how. I think Aghanim Scepter kind of fits the pace of the game. Newbee don't need to take this relaxed. They can go for kill after kill and just keep up the pressure. And honestly, I wouldn't have been opposed to a Shadow Blade, although it feels like that's not really the playstyle there, or that Hao is playing at least. He wants to be farming a little bit more than Shadow Blade would. Still, that last fight, get yourself a Midas on the Ancient Apparition. Considering how poor he was at the start of that fight, the real winners here for DK are the Spirit Breaker and the Ancient Apparition. Granted, it is the Lifesteal and Ember to end those streaks, getting the Heaven's or not the Heaven's Halberd, but the Sange, maybe towards the Halberd, maybe towards the SNY. Oh, top lane though. Oh, no, not gonna go for that. Too deep. Dire don't have vision, or awesome vision of where the supports are. Or Radiant, excuse me. Looking at Dire vision. I said Dire, I meant Radiant. Regardless, they'll be charging forward onto this Lina. Nether Strike. We held. And that's it. That's probably all that's going to happen until they get the glimpse back. They catch eyes onto Laguna Blade going to be thrown. The Spirit Breaker has no real chance. Or does he? Spirit Breaker survives. Raised down by the Shadow Fiend mid-charge. QT is chasing forward for this Lina, but it's just too low. His rage is wearing off in time, and the Ember Spirit's now in a bit of a pickle here. Light Strike, Requiem. It's not the Yule's combo, but, or at least the Yule's combo for the Shadow Fiend that you think of immediately. The Yule's into Insta-Gib Requiem, but now he mops up another with a Winter Wyvern falling to the might of his raises. And now Night Stalker finds a target to go on to Ancient Apparition, the next one on his docket. AA, juking through the trees. Probably not going to get out of here alive. How good are your jukes? Not good enough. They know that he's still around the corner. And Void? Ancient Apparition turns to the ultimate. Is going to go down. He lasted for a lot longer than he probably should have. Those were nice jukes coming out. But still Newbee are in command in this game. A minor bump in the road with that last fight turnaround by DK. Now back above where their advantage was before that. One turnaround for DK is there. The chance is still there that they're able to turn around this game. It's just so hard. It really is. They need Newbee to dive too aggressively. This is one of the few ways they're going to be able to pull this one through. But the Shadow Fiend, even if he dives super deep, as the Blink Dagger, as the Yules is so quick with the Yules plus Yasha movement speed, it's probably going to have the SNY soon. Manta this game isn't bad either, being able to pop out of the chains, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. In fact, maybe it's slightly better. But you know what, right? Either way, it's going to be really good. And now Newbee are ready to smoke. Over-aggressive means diving tier 2s and maybe even tier 3s. But they have the Aghanim Scepter on the Lina. A very well-timed Ags Yules up for her. Not as farmed as the Shadow Fiend, mind you. The Shadow Fiend's super stacked. But farmed enough to where they can go for this move very comfortably. Level 2 Laguna Blade with Aghanim Scepter. That's 650 pure damage nuke. That's more than half of Ember Spirit's HP. Heck, that's almost half of Lifestealer's HP if he doesn't have Armlet activated. It's ridiculous. And if you really wanted to, I don't think it's the right choice. You could right-click Ancient Apparition once and Laguna him. Yule Scepter's going to be thrown. Another strike onto the Shadow Fiend, though. Bouncing him back further in. The Ice Blast is there. The Shadow Fiend gets the effect, but not the damage. Just trying to pop the Requiem, but DK turned around that fight nicely. The Lifestealer is doing as his name would suggest, stealing a lot of HP back away from the enemy team from Feast. Dragon Slate is going to be thrown. Ember Spirit gets chains on the front lines. DK survived with the Lifestealer toggling on the back lines. Ember Spirit remnants forward, gets another kill. And Lifestealer should be able to toggle through all of this, trying for the TP. Is that going to work for Lina? No, not with the chains. That works so well for DK. Really impressed that they're able to pull together that fight. And a lot of it comes down to how Newbee initiate. They start with the Yule Scepter, maybe a little too aggressively into enemy lines, and get very split apart, but not too split apart, where the Winter's Curse isn't able to have a big enough effect. The Shadow Fiend was dropped so low at just the beginning of that fight. They're going to open up with the Void End Silence onto the Lifestealer. With a glimpse back, this Lifestealer is in a lot of trouble. The Urn applied to him, toggling through this is going to be a nightmare. But maybe he doesn't have to toggle through. Maybe he can just fight. This Lifestealer is manning up. The Night Stalker is in a bit of a pickle here, but now inside the enemy creep. I don't think there's really anything they can do about it. This is Lifestealer's new home. They probably have a pretty good idea of where the Lifestealer is. They can't do anything about it. Walrus Punch in frustration. Lifestealer gonna pop out and run. Book it! But they have vision! The glimpse is going to be dodged by the rage, so it doesn't matter. The benefit from the Lifestealer is showing them. Phase, Sange, and Yasha. as well as the arm one means he has so much efficient damage at this point in the game. And with just one bad fight, Newbee again are going to drop their advantage down to about the 10k mark. They still have the lead this game. Don't get me wrong. Their situation looks pretty good. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that HeflaTV might have been a little bit better off going for the mech, but maybe not so much. I don't know. It is an ancient apparition after all on the enemy's side. But speaking of this, he's going to have level 11 Aghanim Scepter. Not too far out relative to what you'd have expected him to pick up. HeflaTV is going to get charged up in top lane. They have Radiant Vision around the corner, but smoked up? Or was he smoked? I don't think so. Blink away by the HeflaTV. He's going to look for the Nether Strike. Connects onto it. And now they have the follow-up. Eul Scepter is there. Requiem unwound. Stacks from Kinetic Field are going to wall in XXS. But the Night Stalker's already fallen. And HeflaTV, I'm not sure his TP survives. Oh, very close. Is going to be able to get him out to safety by the skin of his teeth. The lead's around the corner. And Newbee can still take this engagement. A 1-for-1 exchange is all it is. And a 1-for-1 is better for DK. Even though that last fight recap is only going to show you the Spirit Breaker going down. DK are in a pretty good spot, I'd say. It really was such a close call. Oh, just any amount of damage. It wasn't even the amount of HP they survived upon. It was just the fact that Ember Spirit was so close. And one more Sleight of Fist is for sure lethal if he's able to land that before the TP sticks. Double damage rune is now up for the SF, as if he needed any artificial inflation to his already very stacked amount of money and net worth. But it kind of feels like this HeflaTV's lacking a little bit. Maybe he's going to need a Lincoln Sphere as another defensive item. He's probably doing enough damage, but also maybe decides to go for a Butterfly. I think would be an amazing item against the Lifestealer. Cutting him around for the evasion, obviously, but also the Flutter could come into play pretty huge there to make the HeflaTV move at literally hasted speeds. Things have slowed down, and it feels like DK are getting a lot more space than they ought to. This Ember Spirit was almost getting out-farmed by the Disruptor at some point, and even though it's later than you'd like on your Ember Spirit, it's not a bad timing either. He's probably going to get this, unless he dies here. Never mind, hold that thought. Winter's Curse and Remnant away. They are going to potentially be able to turn on this HeflaTV. They'll give them some respect, and it is much needed. But with the Ice Blast connecting and Nether Strike landing, the HeflaTV is pretty much assuredly going to fall. Laguna Blade turn on XXS. The Spirit Breaker is probably going to die in trade, and somehow this HeflaTV is still surviving. Oh my goodness. Remnant forward, not for long. Ember Spirit going to be able to bring him down. Light Strike Array connects. The silence onto the Ember Spirit, trying to chase forward Fist. He has his Battle Fury done, and now what was an okay timing is now going to be a little bit better for him. And the Disruptor getting chased. This Lifestealer, can you stop him? One more auto attack, and Banana isn't going to go down because his rage is wearing off, and he is going to get Eul's up in the air. They're charging forward under the Selena. She doesn't have mana. She doesn't have her Eul's. She's just going to get dove into her tier 3 tower, and it looks like DK are starting to make a turnaround. The Sleight of Fist snags another. CYK is doing so well in this Ember Spirit. After such a rocky start, he's out-farming the Lina. And now the Night Stalker is going to jump in too. You just don't want to mess with them. You're 1 versus 3 now that the Ember Spirit joins the fray again. How much advantage has been lost by Newbee? It feels like the majority of it. That last fight, more than 6,000 gold in their favor, 7,000 experience. They almost have a Chrysalis on top of the Battle Fury. And now Newbee don't have a lead anymore. It feels like they've gone for one too many ill-advised fights and are playing a little bit riskier than I would have expected. By no means are out of this, but now the HeflaTV is getting jumped, and the Ice Blast is going to connect because of the Spirit Breaker's bounce back. And DK, they're turning this one around, 24-18. A full reversal from where you would have expected this game to have been if you were just tuning in. If we take a look, 12 minutes into this game, we had more than a 10,000 advantage. But yeah, it's not bad. Of course, the Ember Spirit is not out of the woods. There is a lot of lockdown on the side of Newbee. The static swarm, the silence, and what have you. Hasn't gone for a Manta style or any defensive pickup yet, but he could in the future if he wants to. He's not very far off from having a BKB done, which I think would be a well placed item in his inventory. But now a double damage rune. That's very important for them if they are going to take this fight very shortly. And although his Battle Fury on paper is a little bit slower than other Ember Spirits Battle Furies, taking that fight after the fact has propelled him to where his net worth is at the spot where you'd expect a very happy Ember Spirit to be, in fact. If you were just looking at this game, you would not have expected this Lina got such a fast Eul Scepter Ags. She's been sitting on effectively the same items for about 8 minutes now. It treads the exclusion. I think she had Brown Boots, Eul Scepter Ags at just over 20. But really hasn't translated nearly as nice as one would have expected the Lina to have. And Newbee are now on the back foot. They still have a team that can function on the back foot. And right now, both teams are just on their side of the map, farming up, as one would expect. And neither side can stay complacent. Even though DK have turned a couple of fights, there is no guarantee that the next fight is going to go well for them. In fact, far from it. If they are the ones to go on the aggressive, they're inherently at a lot of risk. But the Assault Cuirass is coming after the Life Stealer. The item progression is also there for QD. And for Newbee's side, it kind of feels like this Shadow Fiend's item build hasn't paid off as nicely as he would have liked it to. 7, 5, and 5. And across the board, the Shadow Fiend's play is still fine. Just the last couple of fights really haven't been panning out. Yeah, and the supports are also catching up. At a certain point, this Winter Wyvern and Ancient Apparition were so poor. Granted, the Winter Wyvern is still not as happy as you'd like to be. Maybe be considering working towards that Glimmer Cape afterwards. But as a Force Staff, that's something, right? Force Staff into Winter's Curse, very legit initiation. As already pointed out, the Aghanim Scepter is now done on the Ancient Apparition. It was very close to it, but now just after a little bit of free time in the woods, this is a very well-timed Ancient Apparition Ags. In fact, more farm than the Disruptor, who had that Midas so very quick. And this is what happens when you have that early advantage and then you start losing fights. It really does snap back hard. 24 to 18. Could be anybody's game. The advantage is 2,000 in the favor of Newbee in net worth. And in fact, the advantage is held by DK in experience, if only just. But both of those advantages are slight. In actuality, I think DK have gotten a bigger leap in power with their last couple of item pickups that might allow them to go for an aggressive smoke rotation. The Shadow Fiend is the majority of the gold that's being held by Newbee, and he hasn't yet made the call for his next item. It's a really hard call to make for him now. I think the Butterfly is still good, but it's not going to solve the issues that he's having inside these fights. He's just getting overwhelmed by the Spirit Breaker, by the AA, and then just getting right-clicked to death. And even though Butterfly might help, it's not going to fix all of his issues, is what I'm trying to get at. Even though I still think it's a very much possible and good item pickup next. We'll have to see what he settles on. Maybe he just goes for a Scotty. Goes for an all-around, just a stat item for him. Pretty good at cutting around the Life Stealer, too. And it seems like a good option. But yeah, we've really slowed down the pace, and Shadow Fiend invised up. Are you going to make this call to go? I think the Spirit Breaker knows. And I think the Shadow Fiend knows that the Spirit Breaker knows. And the Shadow Fiend should expect the rest of the enemy team to be coming back for the rotation. And they're going to do just that. But now big item pickups for Newbee. We have the Aghanim Scepter done on the Night Stalker. He doesn't back off for the Midas beforehand, but does have a level 11 and the Ags up. The important thing is that he got there eventually. And now with that reduced vision and the supervision during nighttime and during darkness, this is going to be a lot of control back in the favor of Newbee. BKB is done this Shadow Fiend. Another one of those items that's never bad on SF is, in fact, incredibly core, but it doesn't solve all of his issues. A lot of the damage has been coming out from the Lifestealer with his Assault Cuirass, with his naturally high physical damage output when he's hitting so quickly. And from the likes of Winter's Curse as well. Which, if it's not focused on the Shadow Fiend, I suppose isn't going to be doing too much for him, but... Or the Winter's Curse isn't going to be doing too much for DK, but right now the Shadow Fiend wants to go for Roshan. The Light Strike Array is going to help assist in this Rosh, and more importantly, the DD is there. And maybe even more important than the DD is the fact that DK have no vision on the map. They have one ward, but at Darkness, it feels like that ward's not even there. Shadow Fiend will get an Aegis to the Immortal before the Ice Blast even scouts inside the pit. They got suspicious, but not suspicious enough, it seems. And now, feels like Newbee are right back on track. Bumpy road, for sure, in the last couple minutes, but... Well, we'll see. Yeah, it would be a... Definitely a great comeback from DK if they're able to pull this one through, and it looks like it's definitely very possible. But the next couple minutes of this game are very, very... difficult and slightly one-sided. Now infested up. Maybe we'll get to see that infest gank that I've been talking about for what seems like the entire game actually come into play. Shadow Fiend going into this out, but the Winter's Curse is going to be thrown onto Lina. Can they bring down Hal? They'll bounce him back again into the Ice Blast. Cutie is dominating. Nether Strike onto the Night Stalker on the sideline. Sees the gems. They bring him down. That'd be amazing for them. For now, the Spirit Breaker is the one to be caught inside the Ice Shards. Trying to TP is going to be cancelled by the Cold Embrace. I think that's probably fine. They won't be able to kill him after the fact. Probably won't be too mad about getting embraced there. But DK with just one pick offer. Now the controlling factor. The BKB was done to Lina, but she didn't even have a chance to pop it. Just having that initiation from the Winter Wyvern really turning things around for DK. Now the look for the tier 2 tower. The Aghanim Scepter is done on the Disruptor. Level 13. If he had Stack Storm, that'd be awesome, but he already tried to use that in the last fight. So it looks like tier 2 is going to be forfeit in the favor of DK. Gem purchased by the Ancient Apparition. Even though they're not able to deny away the gem from the Night Stalker, it feels like DK are really pulling things back together. Taking towers, or outer tier towers, and taking fights is one thing. Taking high ground is another entirely. And it feels like they won't be able to do that. Especially not with an Aegis on the Shadow Fiend. At the very least, they need to wait it out. Still, more than 2 minutes duration. About 2:45, 2:50... somewhere in the ballpark there. But Shadow Fiend now needs to kind of worry about his damage output. He has so many defensive utility items up for himself. He needs something to make him hit a little bit harder here. And I think that Butterfly might be the tool to do that. Aggressively moving into the enemy woods. The Night Stalker wants to exert control and make sure that they're the ones with vision supremacy. Still only one ward down on the map, and this ward's going to expire anyway soon. But Newbee are now at your tier 2. Dual Scepter onto the Lifestealer. Blink in Requiem. They have the Static Storm down. He can't get off anything. Cold Embrace will help sustain him, but with the Laguna Blade throwing the right-click damage after the Embrace wears off is enough. Lina ends the dominating spree. There is no buyback on this Lifestealer. After such a rocky patch in this game, maybe Newbee can just push high ground now. Gem of True Sight's going to be lost by the AA. A disaster for DK. Ember Spirit's trying his best to hold. He has the Blink Lincolns, but his wave clear is just this Battle Fear, and as I kind of alluded to very early on in the game, that's probably not enough, and it definitely doesn't instantly kill these creep waves. Buyback from the Winter Wyvern. They really want to make sure that they don't lose high ground here, but this is the perfect situation for Newbee. Take the fight, and you have the Aegis to continue the siege. Shadow Fiend's dropping low, but maybe he just wants to burn the Aegis anyway. It'll be reclaimed in about a minute. He might as well use it for some of these major objectives. The melee barracks already down about a quarter of the HP. Dual Scepter onto the Spirit Breaker, drop back down into a bee's nest of enemy heroes. He has the BKB, Nether Strike, can he commit that onto the Tusk? Jumping back in, Walrus Punch is going to be thrown onto the Spirit Breaker, trying to buy Tusk the extra bit of space they need. Blink in, the Ember Spirit's going to be able to get that kill, and will be able to remnant out to safety too. Ice Blast. Not going to get it. Close, close. And Newbee are going to be repelled. Another blink forward. Chains the Ember Spirit's going to get his Lincolns popped and is going to be repelled. They won't be able to get much more than what they've already taken. But what they do claim is a good team fight, even though that recap is mostly useless. Just a very even exchange there. The fight beforehand, not so much. And maybe even more important is the fact that they claim 2 gems. Night Stalker has 1 for each eye and will probably have 1 for the base now. The map control you get from that last fight is huge for Newbee. Radiant observers everywhere. And then you have this giant light bulb on the map that is the Night Stalker. Maybe it's more appropriate to call him a nightlight. And he really is making everything so much more peaceful on the side of Newbee. And not very peaceful at all for DK. They see hardly anything. That's so scary. I mean, this is not abnormal for nighttime vision. It's nothing crazy. Darkness isn't applied or anything. But that all that really means is it gets worse for DK. Just having no wards at nighttime is terrifying. The butterfly is going to be casually picked up by the Shadow Fiend. And now he has that damage threat potential. Shadow Fiend is effectively 6-slotted. Although you will replace the Yules, and you will replace the Blink down the line, you will get Boots Shovel, will get Moonshard. Relative to the enemy team, this is about as scary as Shadow Fiend's going to get. And it is very scary. I think Newbee have found themselves a window where they're looking solid. Invested up. They're going to glimpse back the charge. And Lifestealer was so close to being able to back them up. But that's just the power of having the vision. Without the vision, DK don't know that there's a disruptor there to cancel the charge. And they also aren't able to punish him for canceling that charge. Since they can't jump blindly in the enemy side, they probably would have just been blown up. Now, this game could still go either way. But we're back to about that 10,000 net worth advantage for Newbee that they were flirting with earlier. A little bit less so in the experience department, but we have a Shiva's Guard on the Lina. The items that are coming out for them are very important. The armor on the Lina especially is going to be a very valuable asset for them. And her right-click damage is not something to ignore either. With the maxed out Fiery Soul and with 159 base plus 24, it's actually hitting pretty hard. Not to take anything away from DK, but they kind of need to pass the baton over to the Ember Spirit. The Lifestealer's big leaps in power are kind of over. And they are going to pass that over to the Ember Spirit as he picks up his Daedalus, or very close to it. Has the recipe, is just shy about 500 gold, even less so. No, just 500 gold, till he has the full item complete. For the Lifestealer, he's going to be going for a Heart next, although I think this is probably a mandatory pickup against the amount of damage coming out from Newbee. It still doesn't solve his kiteability issues, and still doesn't solve the fact that Shadow Fiend is hitting pretty darn hard. BKB is going to be popped on the Shadow Fiend. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get overwhelmed by enemy heroes. He's going to be chasing forward for the Spirit Breaker. Lifestealer's around the corner, though, and it looks like that BKB charge is going to be wasted. Down to 7 seconds now on the Lifestealer. Can DK take a fight after that? Cold Embrace will sustain them up to a fit amount of HP. But it looks like they won't. Night Stalker is going to be able to de-ward here, or rather the Tusk. With a little bit of help from the Night Stalker. With Blink and Force Staff, Tusk can always bail out the NS when it comes to situations like that. I usually like seeing your Night Stalkers pick up a Quelling Blade once you have this gem and Aghanim Scepter just for instant, quick de-ward without help from your allies, but Newbee are playing so close together and so tightly as a team, they don't really need that much. The Shadow Fiend is pretty much ready to go. As you said, the C-Tank would be very useful. However, maybe a little bit less useful against the Ancient Apparitions. So maybe Shadow Fiend decides to go for something different. I still think Scotty's valuable, or just straight up damage. An MKB or a Daedalus could also be pretty awesome for him. Still, he's at a very potent point at this stage of the game. 28-20, Newbee still have their lead. Can they press this in anything more? Can they take high ground? Probably not without Roshan, which is going to be respawning in just a little over a minute. Maybe a fight of brewing top lane. We have the BKB pop by the Spirit Breaker. No glimpses today. They're going to pop out of the Spirit Breaker. Lifestealer is ready to get in the middle of this fight. War's Punch up in the air. BKBs galore across the board for the side of Newbee. But is this going to save their lives? Requiem Throne. Lifestealer will take the Laguna Blade too, but Cutie's still pretty survivable and gets healed up by the Cold Embrace. So much sustain there. Nobody has died. Not a single hero yet until the Tusk gets exploded. Lena's going to kill off the Spirit Breaker, making a 1-for-1 trade that's not over yet. Disruptor trying to run away with the Glimmer Cape. Looks like the Glimmer Cape is going to keep him alive. TP away by the Lena. TP away is going to succeed. Really? Just a Spirit Breaker for a Tusk? I was expecting a lot more with how many cooldowns were spent. That's probably a better fight for DK for more reasons than one. Of course, you do get more gold on the lifesteal than you get on any other hero inside that fight. But maybe more important is the fact that it costs them the 9-second charge on the Tusk for his BKB, the 7-second charge for the Shadow Fiend, and 9-second charge for the Lena. As these charges go lesser and lesser in duration, DK's power gets greater and greater. And so it's proving that these BKBs are not the end-all be-all. It's not a situation where DK 100% rely on their magic fighting power anymore. You have the Ember Spirit with enough gold to pick up his Daedalus, and his physical damage is through the roof. Although he'll probably not pick up the Daedalus until he has buyback. Maybe it's a big enough leap in power for him to be able to consider just snagging that now. He'll be flying out the Demon Edge, and the recipe that he has been holding on for a long time is still inside the base. So he's not going to have it immediately, but is going to have it for the next fight. Wait. I thought he had the Daedalus recipe. No, that was the recipe for the Lifestealer's Heart. Excuse me that I'm remembering. Oh, sorry about that. But in the end, he gets to the same spot. 7, 3, and 10. I'm really impressed by this Ember Spirit play in this game. Even if they don't win it, the only reason why DK are still in this game is because of good team fights coordinated by their side, and especially by this Ember. 7, 3, and 10 is much better than you'd expect against Newbee's lineup. They seem to have a team that's almost tailor-made to kill off this Ember, and maybe they're going to do just that. Smoked up around the sidelines. This could be a big fight. Ember Spirit's over in the Secret Shop area. Daedalus is going to be delivered. Ancient Apparitions, the first one gets spotted out. Blown up super quick. Winter's Curse is going to be thrown. They'll lose the Tusk. At least that's something. Nettler Strike onto the Lena. The Shadow Fiend is still standing pretty strong, but his ally is not standing long around him. His BKB expires, and now the Shadow Fiend needs to book it. Force that forward on the Lifestealer. Doesn't have another open wounds with Eul Scepter on the Shadow Fiend. Looks like he's going to be able to flutter his way out to safety. The Lena and Night Stalker also going to be able to survive another fight with a lot spent on both sides and not a lot of kills. Blink forward. Ember Spirit has a little bit of a case of the stucks. Night Stalker knows about this stuck situation for him. With another blink down, they're going to be moving on to the Roshan Pit. And DK, 23 to 31, are starting to pick up momentum again. This 10,000 advantage for a newbie isn't really meaning as much as one would have thought when it comes to these fights. The initiation edge for either team is not clear cut. In fact, the initiation edge probably rests for DK. Now they have the Basher on the Lifestealer as he nears his 6-slotted super scary status. And the ballpark of 700 to 800 damage with Cleave inside that Sleight of Fist. The Ember Spirit is really trucking. And with only 2 effective damage items. The Blink and the Lincolns have paid off miraculously for him. And now DK are the ones to be on the move. Killing off once is hard enough. Killing off twice feels very close to impossible. But it is something that they can do. A lot of it rests on the Static Storm usage coming out from the Disruptor. The Aghanim Scepter is up. That Static Storm is really a critical tool for them. Maybe more this game, less than the item muting coming out from DK, unless of course it's on like the Spirit Breaker before he pops a BKB or something like that. But just the extra duration. That silence is so very potent. Ooh. Well, the game slowed down a bit. Lifestealer's infested the Spirit Breaker. DK are the ones to make the next move. Do Newbee defend this tier 2 tower bottom, I wonder? How far behind do they think they are when it comes to momentum? Even though they're not behind at all when it comes to net worth. 12,000 is still the advantage held by Newbee. We've seen how much that 12,000 advantage has meant when it comes to translating that into team fights. The naturally strong late game scaling from DK feels like it's giving them a minor edge. Looks like we have a little bit of lag. We'll see. Well, disconnects. Looks like DK are going to get back with us. One of the most concerning factors for DK is that they aren't able to maintain ward vision because of this Night Stalker and his Ags gem. But unlike usual games where we see this Night Stalker Ags, it hasn't translated into teamfight wins for Newbee, which is super surprising to me. If we take a look, their net worth situation looks good across the board. Their map control situation is looking good. What are they doing wrong? I think it comes down to the positioning of especially their supports inside the fights with the angles that they're taking them. They're not able to really benefit that well from having the Disruptor's Aghanim Scepter if they haven't found a good Static Storm for a while. And the Static Storm that they did have on the Lifestealer just wasn't enough damage. They threw everything in the kitchen sink at a Heart Armlet Lifestealer, which is pretty darn crazy. Lifestealer is currently inside the Spirit Breaker. I wonder where the Lifestealer is actually hidden. I'm not going to think about that too hard. Doesn't look like there's space for a Lifestealer, especially one that's this farmed. But yeah. And as soon as we get back underway, it looks like DK might be able to tie up the series. The little pips, chiclets, I don't know, yellow marks that denote victories under the clock are not actually there. I'm not sure why, but it is worth noting that Newbee are up one game in this best of 5. Whoever wins this BO5 will have a ticket to Vilnius to land there to join teams like Empire, Vega, as well as IAG. Should be a lot of fun to see how they fare against the international competition that is going to be going on to that tournament. We still have yet to decide a lot of the other teams that are going there, and currently simultaneously, if you want to watch some Southeast Asian Dota, I believe we'll have TNC versus Signature Trust on azubu.tv/GameShow_D2EN. But for now, thanks for joining, and no, TNC have just won. Well done, TNC, so they're going to be joining the ranks of the teams that are in Vilnius. We have half of the slots already filled. The 2 CIS teams, one from China, one from SEA. And now all we need to decide is who's going to be there from Europe, who's going to be from America, and between Newbee and DK, who's going to be the last remaining Chinese teams. As far as the other regions are concerned, there's still a tiebreaker situation for Europe that needs to be resolved before we get underway there, which I believe the tiebreaker is going to be on the 9th. Yeah, we'll keep you up to date when those games are going to be happening. But, well, for now, just hoping that the lag subsides for DK and we'll be able to get back underway. Well, still waiting on the Ancient Apparition. Hopefully it's not too much longer. But the good news is probably for the next couple of games in this series, I'll have somebody accompanying me on the casting slot. It's been nice to have Corrupt Dropbear here, but I might have Mike Loris. As with the 3-0, the Southeast Asian series was a lot faster than Newbee DK's. This one was very delayed. The first series of the day, full best of 5, all the way between For the Dream Team A and IG. IG winning 3-2, in case you were wondering. Now the Ancient Apparition's reconnected. And we'll be getting underway soonish. Tier 2 tower in the bottom lane is going to be glyphed up, but should be taken out by the Ember Spirit pretty quickly. Oh, the shards are going to be thrown by the Tusk, but I don't think it's going to save this Tier 2 tower. Do Newbee really want to defend? I'm a little bit surprised that they're even showing this much defense at the Tier 2. Maybe they'll be able to catch somebody on their retreat, but it looks like everything's kind of slowed down. My goodness, that penguin squawking sounds already crazy. I like the igloo on the other end, but that penguin, or whatever it is, I don't know. Well, DK going to back off on this side of the map. The Tier 2 tower in the bottom lane for Newbee has since fallen, and will give DK a little bit more control in this map. But with the Scythe device now for the Lina, we're getting to 6-slotted status on more than a couple of these heroes. The Lina, the Shadow Fiend, the Lifestealer, the Ember Spirit are almost completing their builds. Which is very, very scary for either side, really. Aegis is going to be reclaimed in 2 minutes, but with this Aegis, he's going to look for a chains on the Lina. Running away with the Acer, and he should be just fine. And Lina sold her Yule Scepter. It is worth noting to get that side device up and running. Pops her BKB now, but that's not going to save you against the Winter's Curse. They bring in the Lifestealer, and they bring down Hal. No buyback for the Lina. 80 seconds on the sidelines. Is this a window for them to go high ground? I think so. They have more than that 80 seconds left on the Aegis of the Immortal. And now 31-24. That kill score might be a little bit misleading. DK looking strong to take game number 2. Base boots are going to be dropped down on the deck and picked up by the Winter Wyvern. Looks like boots of travel or the order of business for the Ember Spirit. But what can they do about this Lifestealer? They just don't have the damage. They'll glimpse him back. He doesn't have rage, but with the Cold Embrace, he's surviving through this a lot longer than he otherwise would. The BKB was pre-popped by the Shadow Fiend. They'll throw the Requiem and the Walrus Punch and bring down the Lifestealer, also with no buyback. But this Ember Spirit's still trucking. Has the gem claimed away from the Night Stalker instead of filling that slot with boots of travel as I thought. It's actually going to be with that gem of true sight. Ice Shard's going to wall off the Spirit Breaker, finding another kill for Newbee. Ice Blast is going to fly, and the Ember Spirit might be able to mop up a couple more kills, but the Ancient Apparition, maybe more importantly, kills off the Disruptor pretty casually. DK still have a window where they can push high ground even without their Lifestealer. This Ember Spirit has no real answers from Newbee. At least not until this Disruptor respawns. With no buybacks, this is probably a melee barracks for them. Although, looks like they're going to play things safe, as they probably should. Even though they might have been able to get away with going for the melee barracks, it's too risky. Way too risky. They recognize that their Aegis of the Immortal is not going to be lasting too long. They kind of need them to commit on the Ember Spirit now. But yeah, the BKB timings are incredibly low. Incredibly low across the board, and for all intents and purposes, I think we can pretty much say that their minimum timer, I don't think the 6 seconds really matters all too much on the Spirit Breaker, at the very least. Blink Dagger's up for the Winter Wyvern, and that is a very crucial pickup for the instant Winter's Curse initiation. Shadow Fiend's kind of hit his stride, and his stride is starting to pass. He is getting towards a major damage item to be able to kill off the Lifestealer without having to throw everything at him. But if they don't throw everything at this Lifestealer, probably just eat you alive. QD is getting a lot of space. Now we have an MKB for the Ember Spirit. That is his official 6-slotted status. Still controls buyback. No buyback for the Lifestealer yet, but is going to have that soon. And there's your data list for the Shadow Fiend. Buyback's one of the most useful assets for these teams at this point in the game. The farm cores on both sides, the Lina, the Shadow Fiend, the Ember Spirit, and the Lifestealer should all have it sooner rather than later. The Lifestealer lagging a little bit behind, but not by much. And with this creep wave in mid, should be able to get it. And there you go. But yeah, it is worth noting that both of the Yule Scepters on Newbee have been sold for a Scythe and for a Daedalus apiece. Yule Scepters weren't doing that much. I really felt like that was one of the bigger things that wasn't working out for them. The Yules were, in theory, very good, but not inside the team fights where they look to apply them. Inside the team fight, even if you're against an Ancient Apparition, I think the mech would have served the Shadow Fiend a little bit better early. And you still go for the Yule Scepter on the Lina because it naturally synergizes so well with their kit, but maybe Shadow Fiend also just goes for a quicker Sanjin Yasha and ends up getting this build a little bit faster instead of having to wait for 52 minutes before he gets to this build up. Nobody has taken high ground, or at least the barracks. Both teams have taken the tier 3 towers, so I suppose in a sense they have breached high ground, but not in such a way that's going to make this game even close to ending. And really, one set of barracks, especially if it is mid-racks, doesn't matter, really. When you have the Shadow Fiend and when you have the Ember Spirit, heroes that are pretty good at dealing with super creeps. Maybe not mega creeps for the Shadow Fiend, but even megas, Ember Spirit has a fighting chance. Would probably have to go bootsless for it, but ooh, chains connecting the Shadow Fiend, no commitment. Just a casual, hello there, Shadow Fiend. Back to farming. And Shadow Fiend will do just that, and so will the Ember Spirit. However, the Night Stalker maybe not so lucky. He's holding on to a gem. They're going to be able to claim this for their team if they're not careful. They are going to drop him very low. 4 staff away. The Ice Blast not going to connect. QD inside the Static Storm is going to get cold embraced, and this Lifestealer is trucking. Gets the bash onto the Tusk, focusing him down as the Shadow Fiend on the sideline. Skills left the Spirit Breaker and the HF version. Buyback to the Spirit Breaker as the fight continues on the left-hand side. They'll get the bashes and the Sleight of Fist onto the Lina, hitting very quickly, but not fast enough. The Lifestealer is left alone. The Shadow Fiend gets a triple kill. Can he get more? Blinks towards the right-hand side. Won't be able to catch out the Ember Spirit, but the Lifestealer falls to the Disruptor. And I picked the wrong side of that fight to watch. The Shadow Fiend hitting like a champ. And now the Spirit Breaker also going to fall. It still could be anybody's game. It could be anybody's game. Look at how many catapults were in bottom lane. 4 catapults? Alright. Calm down. Well, they're not 4 catapults anymore. They're farm in the pockets of a Shadow Fiend. And he has 7,400 gold in the bank. Probably buys his Moon Shard, has enough surplus and then some to be able to buy that and still have buyback available or upgrade to Boots of Travel, no matter what his selection is. But Boots of Travel are picked up by the Ember Spirit. Speaking of that item, and even though it is a good fight for Newbee, it feels like they're not going to be able to transition that into any objective, Roshan or otherwise. Maybe Roshan, I don't know, it's a reasonably fast Roshan respawn, and if they get there now, they could take it. But they're not there now. What's the courier doing? Sacred Relic, Abyssal Blade for the Lifestealer. But also scouting a bit. This is risky. Courier is going to see that Roshan is up and then make a beeline away. Run, Cluckles, run, or rather fly away with those jets. Also worth noting, what is that unusual effect? Purple mushrooms. Alright, okay. Yeah, Abyssal's done on the Lifestealer, but can they contest this Roshan? They'll get the D word on the pit. Scotty is now picked up by the Shadow Fiend. That's his direct replacement to the S and Y, I want to say, instead of going for one of those more slot-efficient items. Could probably sell the Sanjiashi and get the Moonshard if he wanted to, although he's not going to. Needs to buy back a little bit more. So he needs about 1,000 gold before he can have both of them. But a Blink Walrus Punch, they open up onto QD. They've tried this so many times, but the Cold Embrace, every single one of those times has stopped them. The healing on this Lifestealer is insane, and he's destroying the Shadow Fiends. He gets chain bashed, Abyssal to the ground. And that's going to be a double kill for QD, and the free trip into the Roshan pit for DK. Now Newbee, they have the buyback from the Shadow Fiend. They're going to spend that now. I don't think they can stop this Roche falling, though. The Shadow Fiend's just going to push up towards top lane. They really can't commit to go inside this pit, even though Night Stalker is going to maintain them some pretty good vision around the area. It's going to fall. This is Aegis for one, Cheese for another. Aegis for the Ember Spirit, drops his Blink Dagger for it, going to drop that over to the Winter Wyvern. Next level strats with the double Blink Dagger. And then the Cheese is going to be selected by the Spirit Breaker. Newbee tried to initiate in the Lifestealer pretty much every fight, and it's just not working for them. He's too damn tanky. This guy has 32 armor, 66% physical damage resist. He has 4,000 plus HP whenever he pops on that armlet, and now they're going to start barreling down mid lane. One barracks definitely doesn't end this game or even get close, but killing off the Shadow Fiend might. The Shadow Fiend is on buyback right now, and the Ice Blast is going to fly. Laguna Blade thrown onto XXS, and the Spirit Breaker is going to be dropping down. They lose the Aegis on the Ember Spirit. Buyback by the Disruptor, but the Lifestealer is going to munch down the Lina. Buyback by the Lina. They want to get back into this. They get a bash on the way out. Will that secure QD his retreat? Not so much. He's silenced. Can't have the rage even if it was off of cooldown. Gets Glimmer Cape, gets Force Staff, another Cold Embrace, and QD should be just fine, but the Winter Wyvern not so lucky, as the Winter Wyvern is going to be able to be brought down by the Night Stalker. With a slight Fist Cleave, though, starting to stack up pretty high as QD finally is going to fall. A costly defense by Newbee, but they hold. Chasing forward for more. Ancient Emperor's attacked by one right click, and one right click is his death sentence. There's no real way out of there alive. 4 heroes will hit the floor for DK. Of those 4 heroes, only one of them has buyback. But can Newbee make this high ground push happen? Maybe. 42 to 32. This graph is meaning less and less as the game transpires, but it's impressive how close it's been throughout this entire matchup. We'll pop the darkness. Newbee are going for high ground mid. The Lifestealer is going to respawn in 50 seconds. I don't think they can hold for that when you have a double damage on the Shadow Fiend. It feels like the game is begging the Shadow Fiend to push high ground right now, and he is going to be able to take this melee barracks, I want to say. Can they take anything else? The tier 2s have already fallen. They buy back the Lifestealer. They look for the chains. Stackstorm's going to drop right onto QD. The Lifestealer, is this going to be a dieback for him? The damage from the Shadow Fiend is high enough. He's down on the sidelines for 108 seconds. If they kill off the Ember, it's pretty much over. And even without killing off the Ember, it looks like DK's chances of coming back into this game are significantly less. The Ember Spirit will drop some chains onto the Tusk, and the Ice Blast is going to fly. Still, the Shadow Fiend is trucking. Can the Ember Spirit hold? Oh, he needs to be so careful right now. He has 7,900 now, 8,000 gold. If he wanted to, could pick up himself a Divine Rapier, but right now buyback is more important. The Tusk is going to tick down to the Ancient Apparition's ultimate. That's at least something for DK. The Blink Dagger is now going to be reclaimed to its rightful owner, the Ember Spirit. As I said earlier, this barracks really doesn't end the game, or even get close to it. But what it does do is really make DK think twice about going aggressive. With buyback on CD for their Lifestealer, things get a lot more difficult for them if they're able to just bring him down once. On the same side of that coin, or rather the flip side of that coin, I'm not sure which side of the coin it's on, nor does it matter. Buybacks on CD for the Shadow Fiend and the Lina. Also worth noting that we have that Moon Shard on the Shadow Fiend, which has been consumed. He's officially at that 6-slot status. All he wanted to do is wait until he buffed back, or buying that Moon Shard. And for the Lina, also really close to having her 6 slots. Refresher seems to be the natural item for Lina. Double BKB, double Hex, double Laguna, double Shivas. Although the double Shivas is a little bit less important. All of the other factors add together to make it almost a no-brainer pickup. Is there something else that would be better, though, I wonder? Maybe. We'll have to see. I think it's just ref, though. Game state is slowed. Both teams are on buyback CD for most of their scary heroes. In fact, the only buybacks available in this game are on the Ancient Apparition and Ember Spirit, both on the side of DK. But they're the ones that have just lost the barracks. They're the ones that have just lost the fight, and they're going to be a lot less comfortable going for an aggressive rotation. Divine Rapier. It's time. This is your 6-slotted build for the Ember Spirit. There's nothing you replace here, I want to say. Maybe the Lincolns? But what would you replace it with? I don't know. And it's not like Moonshard's really going to help you either. Right now, the bigger item for him is buyback and then getting backup rapiers. They can hold almost indefinitely with this, but the next fight is almost exclusively determined by Roshan. It's going to be a fairly long Roshan respawn timer, about that mark on the clock. Whew. The second game of both of these Chinese best-of-5 series has been a long one. DK and For the Dream both clawing their way back in. And well, I think that comes as no surprise. Divine Rapier is such a good item on Ember Spirit. with how the hero functions and how he plays with the Battle Fury Cleave is able to indefinitely keep out these creep waves. Super creeps or not, Ember Spirit doesn't really care outside of the reduced gold income. But they fall just about as quickly. Buyback is only available for the Ember. And if Ember dies, game is probably over from there with a Divine Rapier on the Shadowfiend. Drop his Blink Dagger for it. I don't know. Really depends on the situation beforehand, the fight that comes in the moments before that Rapier is dropped. Lotus Orb is up for the Night Stalker. Is there any item progression I've missed across the board? I don't think so. There are some of the smaller items that haven't talked about, but that's a very interesting stat. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that when you're buying Ember Spirit's Battle Fury, although it is very good and it keeps these lanes pushed out and gives you a chance to win, for the most part you're super far behind. Divine Rapier, just by the nature of the item, isn't one that you're going to be picking up unless you're dominating or super far behind, or you need some way to shake things up in a late game scenario, which is the third category that doesn't immediately come to mind, but that's the one that this game falls under. Ember Spirit's usually the hero to buy that Rapier. Just a small correction, but... Or rather, do you mean that it was bought in 15 games by the Ember and he finished 19 games with the Divine Rapier? Oh, we'll have to wait a second for that, I suppose. But still, usually the Ember Spirit's the first one to buy the Divine when you're on the back foot and is probably going to drop it, or it's just not going to matter. You're playing too defensively and you can never leave your base. Oh, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Roshan going to rear his head in about 3 minutes or so. 2 and a bit. And the state of the game has not changed. It's another one of those late game scenarios where it really does take a misstep before somebody else makes an aggressive move on the other side of the map. Your supports are getting items that usually your supports only dream of getting. And for the Winter Wyvern, that's not that much yet, but a really big game changer for DK would also be a refresher for this Wyvern. Double Curse is amazing. It really is. And maybe even don't pick up the Force Staff, Blink, or Glimmer. Only pick up 2 of those 2 items so you get that refresher quicker, but I don't know, this game isn't going anywhere fast unless DK find a good pick-off now. The buyback's up for the Shadow Fiend Lina, and buyback's not there for the Lifestealer, so this could be a little bit sketchy for them, but by the time the Lifestealer is respawning, I'll buyback, even if he dies immediately now, and oh, actually, no, he doesn't have the gold for it. He buys his Blink Dagger for the Blink Abyssal Initiation. DK have not found anything yet, at least convincing, to go off of. And they're going to back off into Roshan. Little do they know, Roshan is not going to be up, and it's not going to be up for a while. A little under 2 minutes now. Such a long respawn. And I really don't think that long respawn favors either of the sides. Really, I think the only people that are going to be a little bit disappointed of a longer Roshan respawn time are the viewers. But maybe it doesn't matter at all. Just traded nukes from either side as they push out the wave, not really crossing mid lane. Often. Shadowfiend flirts with the line, but thinks better of it. This is a game that neither of the teams want to risk. A lot on the line for them. They really want to be involved in the LAN tournament in Vilnius and join IG as the other Chinese team to have qualified. Gem is up for the Ancient Apparition, purchased with his own money. Might add to match the gem that's up for the Night Stalker, but smoked up. Maybe this is going to be your time for Newbee to find the initiation. With a vision from the Night Stalker, they're going to jump in, blow up the Winter Wyvern at the start of this fight. Taking away Curse is huge. Buyback from the Wyvern. Nether Strike onto the Shadowfiend. The damage from the Lifestealer is good, but it's not really good enough to bring down this Night Stalker, and the physical damage from the Shadowfiend is huge. The Cold Embrace is going to buy him a little bit more time, but not enough time. They'll be able to right-click him to Oblivion with the gem still maintained control of by the Night Stalker. Divine Rapier hits the deck. And just like that, I think Newbee have finished this game with the Divine Shadow Fiend. The Ember Spirit's going to buy back into the game. He has 3,700 gold on toughness. He really wants to fill that with with his Divine on the SF if they could kill him off. Tusk is going really deep here. We'll be able to blink out after, as the melee barracks seem to be only a couple seconds away from falling in bottom lane. Not a single buyback is available that DK have not already spent. Rapier Shadow Fiend is a crazy amount of damage on these towers, but also they do want to make sure that they don't risk a single thing. Do they want to go back for Roshan? Do they want to get the Aegis plus the Divine on the the Shadow Fiend? And that is an option now. But what do you drop for it? I don't even know. Still, I think you do give it to the Shadow Fiend. Does he replace his BKB? I suppose it is only 5 seconds. That's probably the easiest call to make. And then just give your BKB to one of the supports. The supports don't really have slots for it. Sorry, Disruptor, you might have to drop your Midas for a bit, but they are going to get this Aegis and Cheese, and even if it's not given to the Shadow Fiend, they'll still be amazing for them. The dream is having Aegis and Divine, but does he even need the Aegis on top of it? It'll be Cheese consumed by the Lina, and Aegis picked up by that same hero. 8,000 gold in the bank, could pick up that refresher that I was talking about earlier, but doesn't really have the slot for it, and that seems to be the biggest issue this game for both of the teams. They just don't have enough slots to hold all of these items. But the items are coming out larger for Newbee. Then Shadow Fiend, even if he dies, even if he loses the Rapier, has enough gold to buy another one for himself should he feel that that's a necessity. DK have successfully held off for now. Lotus, Force Staff away, Glimmer away, taking no chances. Shadow Fiend is going to be repelled. Feels like Newbee might have missed their window, though. I'm a little bit sad that they don't give the Aegis to the Shadow Fiend. It's just a siege tank for DK to manage. But still, if they do siege with the Shadow Fiend, getting a Winter's Curse is probably one of the biggest tools DK have of turning that Rapier that they fed away to the Shadow Fiend against his own team. The amount of physical damage that the Shadow Fiend is doing to the structures and doing to the heroes is huge, but it's just as bad as if you catch it on, the Lina, or something along those lines. If she doesn't have her BKB up, of course. Lina's going to be flying out Boots of Travel, Mark 2? Mark 2. And Darkness will be popped. But I don't think this changes the state of the game at all. We're back up on that high ground siege. The tier 3 tower has already fallen, and the Range barracks are going to be really quickly taken down. My goodness. Newbee really are playing things so safe. If the Shadow Fiend finds any time to commit, that's melee barracks in their favor. So close to Mega Creeps. Mega Creeps don't end this game, though. Not 100%. Ember Spirit's getting to the point where he almost has enough gold for another Rapier, which probably is a necessary evo for him. I don't see another way that they come back into this game, especially after giving one already to the Shadow Fiend. Maybe add that another game to the tally where the Ember Spirit is bought and not been able to end the game with the Divine because he's given away to the enemy team. Top lane, pushing in by Newbee. Not a single chance is going to be taken. They're positioned in such a way that Winter's Curse can only be on one hero. Here's your Rapier on the Ember Spirit. Blink in for an open wounds on the Lina, but just posturing tactics coming in from the Lifestealer. They'll get chains to connect, but the tier 3 tower is getting chipped down, and DK need to do something quick. The Aegis of Immortal on the Lina, how long is that going to have in duration left? About 2 minutes. This is more than enough time for them to stick around and keep up the pressure. Dire have hardly any vision. When darkness is popped, their tower can barely see its metaphorical toes. And the inky blackness is made by the Night Stalker. Newbee are ready to keep on pressuring. No initiation. This is not about initiation. This is about objectives. This is about this tier 3 tower, which is ever so slowly falling down in favor of Newbee. They can taste Game 2 victory on their lips. And with Game 2 going their way, it would be very likely that Game 3 would be shortly to follow. The tier 3 tower? Miss. Lina is going to be able to bring that down eventually, although it was close. Uphill mischance not really cooperating with the Lina. No. Oh, thinking about another strike, not going to go for it. Winter's Curse going to be thrown on the back lines onto the Shadow Fiend. Can they secure the Rapier for themselves? He's inside the snowball. The BKB was popped preemptively by the Tusk. He's going to be able to get that off. Or actually, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I'm really confused. Regardless, they're going to go through the Spirit Breaker. Charges in. Rapier hits the deck. Shadow Fiend wants to buy back in. Needs to get that Rapier again as they're focused down the Tusk with a Sleight of Fist Cleave. Double kill for the Ember Spirit. The Rapier on him is still doing a lot of work. They pick up a Basher on the Shadow Fiend. The Rapier is still on the floor, though. He's going to throw the Requiem. A very sad one with only 23 souls, but the Lena's around the corner. It's such a close call for either side. If the Shadow Fiend dies, it could all be over. The Rapier is on the Lena, which is actually super legit with Fiery Soul. And DK hold. Melee barracks, range barracks, top lane is going to be secured by them. They're not going to end up losing it today. Or, I can't say today, but maybe this Dota day? Nah, the clock is obscured by the Night Stalker. Gem is claimed, and we have an Abyssal Shadow Fiend on our hands. How many times do you get to say that? Abyssal Shadow Fiend. I think it matches the state of this game. They just need raw lockdown to keep the Ember Spirit and the Lifestealer in check. And if the Lifestealer is trading blows with the Shadow Fiend, you kind of want an Abyssal of your own in order to be able to turn that around onto whatever the LS is doing. Especially if Lotus Orb is applied, the Lifestealer just can't win that man fight, really, if the Shadow Fiend gets lucky to. One ranged bash, as he gets it on the Wildkin, could completely turn things around. But also important is this Lincoln Sphere for the Disruptor. Lincoln's Lotus onto the Shadow Fiend and just constantly siege. The Refresher's up for the Lena, although not necessarily in the order I would have expected. She's going to give up the Aghanim Scepter for it. In fact, sell the Aghanim Scepter for it. I think that's worth it. Although the pure damage from her ulti is nice, just having double Hex, double BKB, and double Shivas is probably a little bit nicer. Well, back to farming. One Rapier apiece. One in the Ember Spirit, one in the Lena. Both teams are gonna have to play so defensively. DK are definitely on the back foot, but they can hold against this. Barracks bottom, Barracks mid. Don't really mean too much in the grand scheme of things for the Ember Spirit, who's able to clear them out with one Sleight of Fist. The only thing that's really suffering is their gold income, and even that isn't really suffering all too much. At a certain point, Newbee had 30,000 net worth in their advantage. But that's not enough to end this game. Yeah, it's ridiculous how few times you get to see Abyssal on Shadow Fiend. And even if you look at every game from Shadow Fiend ever, I'm not sure there are very many situations outside of ones like this where it's super late game, where that's even a good choice. But I like it this game. I think it kind of fits. He doesn't need the MKB. The evasion situation for the side of DK is very slim. They only have the Solar Crest on the Spirit Breaker. Granted, the Solar Crest is a nuisance, but not nuisance enough to where Shadow Fiend needs to get an MKB. He'd rather have the big Papa Basher. No, paused again. The momentum seems to be all but gone. 50 to 36. And there's not a lot to talk about. Abyssal Blade, 100% win rate. And almost 2,600 Shadow Fiend games on record. Can't argue with the stats. Although I think that's still so small of a sample size, I don't think we can call it in the bag just yet for Newbee. But I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a situational item, and when you're picking it up, it's such a big item that usually it tilts the scales in your favor. The only sad thing for the Shadow Fiend is he can't hold on to a bash or a blink anymore, really. It's just not cost efficient enough for the slot that it's going to be taking up. And Shadow Fiend is getting that beyond 6-slotted status at this point. "74 minutes into the game and we're paused." I don't think there's a lot to talk about right now. The buyback status for the Shadow Fiend still not available, and same for the Night Stalker. Although the buyback is available for the Ember Spirit and the Life Stealer, is that really what matters this game? I think it's a lot more about the Rapiers now, but still an advantage for DK nonetheless in that respect. But when it comes to their base, DK's base is looking a lot slimmer. That's pretty much the situation, and now we're good to go to watch Heroes farm again. Jeez. Infest, and he has now become the Granite Golem. Moonshard would be really good for the Lifestealer too as his next pickup, but he's going to need buyback on top of it. Right now just swaggering around is his 423 movement speed Ancient Creep. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, this Ancient really isn't as impressive as it otherwise would. Still, it's going to be really hard for Newbee to initiate onto it. And you know what? If nothing else, feels good to be an Ancient. Look at that stride. Look how confidently he roams around the map. No longer restrained to his little pit. Charging forward, though. Maybe they're going to find an initiation onto one of the supports. The Spirit Breaker is continuing to go, but ends up canceling. Yeah, forget about that. And we're back. Right where you left us. Now pushing high ground. DK. Can they do enough with this? I'm not so sure. Even though it's no Ember Spirit with Battle Fury Divine Daedalus, their wave clear is still acceptable. Yeah, pushing a little with this Ancient Creep. I'm sure this is what they've been waiting for. Oh no. Darkness is going to be popped, and DK don't really have a good read on where the enemy's side is. They'll catch a glimpse of vision in mid on the Lina, but that's about it. And it's so hard for either team to commit. You're committing high ground to a Divine Rapier Lina, for Pete's sake. This hero hits so fast. You add a Divine on the top of that, and she's hitting so hard. It's ridiculous. Already with the 210 base damage that she's hitting with, that's already impressive. Don't get me wrong. But add, you know, an extra 330 on top of that? Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Roshan going to fall. Does this matter? I don't know. Aegis for the Spirit Breaker, Cheese for the Winter Wyvern. The floor is a mess inside the Roshan pit. Clean up after yourselves, pick up the Soul Ring and what have you. And with this Aegis, I don't think it changes a thing. We're still in it for the long haul. We're ready for the long game, and we're kind of stuck here till one of these teams makes a false move. This game is not necessarily about who's playing better. It's about who makes fewer mistakes and who's able to respond to those mistakes appropriately. And right now, there just isn't any opportunities because there is hardly any ward vision. We have an error on that hill, and the Night Stalker's around the corner. They didn't catch a glimpse of the Night Stalker, though. Again, that lack of vision, the only thing they in charge is this Shadow Fiend, and he's going to be able to TP away just fine. Spirit Breaker, charging forward, gets cancelled. The Night Stalker is there around the corner to offer huge amounts of vision. They lose the Aegis, but now the real target's popped out. The Lifestealer is here with an Abyssal in tow. They don't really want to commit it onto the Night Stalker right at the last second of that Lotus Orb. Is it going to save the Night Stalker's life? I don't think so. It's just going to delay the inevitable as he's left alone by the rest of his team. Down on the sidelines, no buyback, 110 seconds. Is that the pickoff that DK needed? At the very least, I say try. Even if it means losing your Divine Rapier, Ember Spirit, you have enough gold for another one on top of that. Or at least near enough. Not Divine Rapier and buyback, though. So that is a little bit concerning for DK, but this is their window of opportunity to come back from being down. Two sets of barracks, one in mid, one in bottom, against the side of Newbee. They'll get a bash. Laguna Blade is going to be thrown, dodged by the Rage, but he's getting range bashed by the Shadow Fiend. Again, Cold Embrace is going to sustain him so well. The Lotus Orb applied onto the SF. Can they kill him off? Another Laguna is going to be thrown, but really the damage is what you need to be worried about. Onto the Lina with the Side of Fist, so kill her off. 120 seconds. The Rapier is on the deck. Who's going to pick it up? Lena's going to buy back. They're saving it for the Lena. Give me that rapier. Give me back my sword, my precious. And they are going to be able to claim that as DK are repelled and forced to at least back up the Ember Spirit inside the base. Ember Spirit has a remnant. Can get back into this fight in just a second. The Tusk is dropping so very low. Force Staff back is going to survive. Ooh, is that including the IG game earlier today? I'm not so sure since they're not on tickets. I doubt they'd be recorded by Dota, but that one was a marathon. The tier 3 tower already having fallen. The melee barracks soon after. The first full set in favor of DK. Now the Shadow Fiend in a lot of trouble here. He has buyback. Needs to spend it now, I want to say, and will do just that. Popping into a creep. The Lifestealer is trying to sustain himself. The creep is going to be insta-killed by the Lena. Blink away by the Lifestealer. Glimmer Cape Lacuna Blade's hardly going to do any damage towards him. Nether Strike is going to be cancelled, but Excess is still in a lot of trouble. The damage is too high. The Spirit Breaker will fall. Double kill for the Lena. 2 gems hit the deck, snowballing forward. It looks like the remaining heroes are going to be able to make it out, and their base is under heavy siege. The tier 4 tower has already fallen on the south side of their ancient. The Lifestealer is trying to run away. I think he gets out of here, though I'm not 100% sure. It looks like they're not going to be able to maintain vision of him, although they might try for an Ice Shards. How lucky you're feeling, Tusk. Not lucky enough. Blink away by the Lifestealer. He will be just fine. The heroes that died for DK have buyback. Newbee are on buyback. If they're able to turn this one around, DK probably outright win the game. And Newbee can't go for a high ground push. Still 1 gem is stuck on the floor. The other gem, oh, where'd that end up? One in the Ancient Apparition, 1 on the Night Stalker. Okay, fair enough. 1 apiece. No big surprises there, I suppose. Whose Midas is on the Radiance Curry? Is that Disruptor's Midas? Come on, guy, you can use it. We're 80 minutes into the game. 2 in base, actually. Oh, wow. 4 gems on the map, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's just one of those games. This is casual double Divine Rapier. This isn't even a Divine for him to hold on his person, I don't think. I'm pretty sure this is just the I have Divine and buyback game. Oh dear. No signs of slowing down. And only the second to be controlled by him now. The other one is in the hands of the Lena. They'll destroy the flying error. Or maybe it's not flying anymore. It sinks into the ground. It was just kind of standing there either way. But we're waiting for the Roshan. As Night Stalker denies whatever that was on the floor. I can't even remember what it was, but it's not there anymore. Get destroyed. There's now a butterfly on this Lifestealer. The lack of evasion did mean that the Shadow Fiend could have gotten away with not having MKB, but now that case is no longer there. And butterfly is going to be a super huge amount of cost-efficient HP for this Lifestealer. He poses a large amount of threat. And now is a Thunderhide. A little bit less threatening, but what's inside the Thunderhide is what counts. I wish the Ancients made bigger sounds when they're walking around. They should have more weight to them. Crashing through the Radiant Jungle, the Thunderhide's probably not going to find anything. Frozen Sigil is going to scout out for the Radiant side, and it's going to spot out a lot from DK. Still. Yeah, the state of the game has not changed much. The only heroes in the game who have buyback, Ancient Apparition and Ember Spirit. DK have the buyback advantage. Newbee have the Rax advantage. Nothing has changed, and nothing probably will unless a big fight breaks out, which it very well could. The Thunderhide from the high ground, shooting away at this tier 3 tower, doing negligible amounts of damage as they Lotus and Lincolns up the Shadow Fiend. And just like that, we're still at the same old case. Ancient Creeps are a little bit slower for the Lifestealer now that he has had to say goodbye to that Sanjinasha. Let's see. They'll pull off the creep aggro, and the damage they're dealing to this tier 3 is next to nothing. They'll deny out the creep, they pop out Winter's Curse onto the Lena, they'll bring down her Divine onto the deck, no buyback on Lena, it looks like DK are doing it. Shadow Fiend popping the Requiem, gets a huge amount of damage onto this Lifestealer, he's down for 97, but with 2 minutes with no Shadow Fiend and no Lena, can they do it? Divine Rapier Tusk, punch them, go! I believe in the punch of destiny. And it looks like it's going to kill off the Winter Wyvern or damn near get close to it. 1852 damage from that punch. Double kill for the Tusk. Can you hold? And they really need to. This Ember Spirit's coming in hot. The buyback is still available for the Ember too. They're chasing forward for this Disruptor Snowball and Walrus Punch. Divine hits the deck. The Shadow Fiend is still not available. The Lean is still not available, but the Ember Spirit now has to fight against this Tusk. How many times do you get to see a Divine Rapier Tusk? Now that's something that I don't think I've ever seen. Walrus Punch the Ember Spirit with the Ice Blast effect on him. He's going to drop the Rapier on the deck, buying back. He really wants it. The Ember Spirit's going to drop his Lincoln Sphere, picks up an urn off the deck. That's not the Rapier that you were looking for. It's up towards the north. Drops items. Fighting rapiers? Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. The Ember Spirit has his double rapiers. Can he use it to end the game? They have 60 seconds. Who cares about this tier 3 in melee barracks? Maybe just go for the throne. But they've already started on this bottom lane, so you might as well finish what you've begun. Walrus Punch in. The Ember Spirit's dropping low. Force Staff away. Cold Embrace. That's a dieback on the Ember Spirit. And now Newbee. Maybe they have a new lease on life. Maybe they're the ones that are able to take this game. I don't even know what's happening anymore. They're chasing forward for the Spirit Breaker, mashing him down. They're down on the deck with no buyback. The Life Stealer's respawning in 8 seconds, but the only hero to accompany him is the Winter Wyvern. And the more important thing is DK don't have a single Rapier left. That is every single one of them now in control and in possession of Newbee. 2 on the Night Stalker, 1 on the Tusk. Are you kidding me? This is not how I would have expected to end the game. If you're the Night Stalker, I don't even know. Do you sell items for like Hyperstone or something? Are we just going down mid? Or Newbee going to try and end here? Without the Ember Spirit to hold, this gets a lot harder for them. Their boots are traveling in onto this Night Stalker, who's absolutely ripped. Abyssal Blade onto the Night Stalker. Can you get the rapiers off of him? Winter's Curse is going to be reflected onto the Winter Wyvern over in the sidelines. Laguna Blade 1, and they have the Hex. Laguna Blade 2 is available. No Crater, the Wyvern. Snowballing forward. The Tusk wants to catch out this Life Stealer. He's very tanky, but not tanky enough when you have an Abyssal on this Shadow Fiend, punched into the air with the Divine Rapier. Tusk is going to be able to do it, and it looks like DK have lost 85 minutes into the game. Newbee find their second victory in this best of 5 in the GameShow Global Esports Cup off the back of Ember Spirit's Rapiers. Oh my goodness. What a game. What a couple of games. I'm not sure if I have it in me to keep on going, but at least I'll have Mike Lores for the next one, and I'm not sure how DK come back to this after such a loss. They should feel good that at least they held in that long, and maybe they're going to be able to drag it out to the full games. But that was amazing. Yeah, stick around for game number 3. I've been Grandis V. We'll be joined by Mike Lores for game number 2. Stats have been provided by the Corrupt Drop Bear from Standard Deviants, and we'll be back to you with that game number 3 in just a minute. Stay tuned.